Well, the November winds are blowing early, hard from the south, 24 knots. Red sky at night, sailor's delight. Red sky in the morning, sailors take warning. Well, it's Talk Like a Pirate Day at the Door County Maritime Museum. Okay, I have to stop doing that. I'm going to fall into that.
You're going to talk like that.
I'm going to talk
the
like
whole
a
time?
pirate all afternoon. Claudia, where are we at?
We are at the Door County Maritime Museum, which is located at 120 North Madison Avenue in Sturgeon Bay, Wisconsin, and was established in 1969, and now includes 4 amazing galleries that feature lighthouses, model ships and boats, shipwrecks, the area's numerous shipbuilding companies, and more. The museum includes an in-water exhibit of a completely restored 1960s era tugboat that was built in 1919 and served until early 2000. Located along Sturgeon Bay, Wisconsin's busy waterfront, the Door County Maritime Museum showcases the area's rich maritime roots. Hard-working fishermen, brave ship captains, skilled craftsmen, bold inventors, and lonely lighthouse keepers are just some of the personalities you'll discover in the galleries of the museum. Across the bay is Door County's largest shipbuilder, Bay Shipbuilding, which can be seen through the submarine's periscope inside of the museum. See how these maritime pioneers worked and what they made, and you'll understand and appreciate your visit to Door County on a deeper, more engaged level.
And who are we here with this evening?
We are here with Jon Gast, who is a tour guide for the museum.
Welcome.
Jess Reinke, who is the events coordinator. Amy Paul, who is the marketing and communications manager. And Rick O'Farrell, our executive director.
Well, this is really an exciting day for me because I have this little boy fantasy about joining the merchant marines and going off to sea. So instead, I'm going to come to the Door County Maritime Museum and enjoy what I always fantasized about. So Rick O'Farrell, Executive Director, tell us about the museum and things that people will see when they come to Door County.
Well, when you visit the museum, the first thing you're going to do is come in the door, and on your left we have a
Take your time.
We're having sign language here on the side.
These sailors are really a wacky crew here.
on your right. You'll go into the gallery, the Petersen Gallery, and learn about early shipbuilding, all the way from a native birch bark canoes to up to present day shipbuilding with Palmer Johnson.
Mm-hmm.
We have the history of the ships being built during World War II, back to looking at the canal being built here.
When was the canal built? 1949. No, I'm just guessing.
It was built in the 1870s.
Wow.
At the time, it was privately built. It was actually the owner of the Chicago Northwestern Railroad paid
Really?
most of the money to have
That's
it
interesting.
constructed. It was privately built, and of course, it was toll at that time. But of course, the major reason was, I always like to say, was really kind of like the exit ramp on the interstate in those days, because those were schooner travel days around here, and they basically handled all transportation, much like the semi-trailers of today. So nobody really wanted to go around Death's Door down the tip of the peninsula.
Not if they didn't have to.
Not if they didn't have to. So some forward-thinking Sturgeon Bay gents decided that cutting a path from connecting Sturgeon Bay with Lake Michigan would be a really smart thing to do, and they did. And finally, they finished it, which was quite an engineering feat for the time. But then they kind of ran out of money. And then in the 1880s, there was a demand navigationally for it. The Corps of Engineers finally got involved, and that was when public money started to get funneled into it. And of course, since that time, the Corps has maintained it, and now it is a navigable waterway for everything from little fishing boats all the way up to 1,000-footers that make their way through over.
And can a loaded 1,000-footer make it through there?
No, a 1,000-footer can't if it's loaded.
Right.
It's because we have limited depths here, but we are not a port in Sturgeon Bay.
Sure.
So we really are only in for repair. So they come in pretty light when they're coming in here, so they can do the ship canal pretty high in the water.
So they'll do it for maintenance purposes.
Right, they come in here, we mostly see them in the wintertime, after anywhere from about mid-January through early March. And at that time, we'll get anywhere from 15 to 20. So it's quite the scene. Normally when we do tours here and people come in from all over the Midwest, we always try to encourage them to come here in the winter to see really an amazing fleet of
Oh,
vessels.
it is.
Yeah, it is.
It looks like
fun.
Lambeau Field on a Sunday.
It is.
I mean, that parking lot's full.
Yeah, for some reason they never want to come here in January and February, and I can't quite figure that one out. But really, it is pretty neat, like you said. It's neat to see, and you get one of those nights where it's about 5 below and steam's coming
Yep.
out of these babies.
And all those lights are
I
lit up,
know,
and
yeah,
it is.
yeah,
It's magical.
It is.
Really.
It is. It's something you don't see very few places.
And in the
in this
Midwest
country.
especially.
Right.
You know, we're not, down in Norfolk, Virginia, or we're not in the Texas Panhandle. We're down here in Sturgeon Bay, Wisconsin, and it's just not a scene that you would normally see. Amy Paul, Marketing and Communication Manager, you're no stranger to the sea. You have quite a background in your family. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, actually, a lot of people don't even know because I'm still learning about a lot of it myself. But my great-grandfather was lighthouse keeper, actually assistant lighthouse keeper on both Plum and Pilot, and was the main assistant or main keeper at Two Rivers before they discontinued the lighthouse service and made it all into the Coast Guard.
That's pretty exciting.
And then
pretty
wasn't
good
your
history.
grandmother a pilot on
Great-grandma.
Great-grandmother was a pilot on the tugboat?
Yeah, in Michigan, my great-great-grandfather was a pilot. He took the mail, the U.S. mail, back and forth between a couple of the islands and the ports and whatnot. And when he died, she took over, and she actually became one of the first female pilots on the Great Lakes.
She didn't wait for the Emancipation Proclamation
or the Women's
or
Lib
Women's Lib
movement.
movement.
No, just dove right in.
Yeah, she just dove right in and took over.
She's a good role model.
I love those kinds of stories. And we're also here with Jess Reinke. Did I pronounce that correctly?
Yep.
So you're the events coordinator, and you got a lot of stuff coming up here. Let's talk about the Maritime Festival of Trees,
Well,
which I saw you decorating some of them yesterday.
Yes, we've got 4 trees in the museum now, but next Saturday the museum will be filled with Christmas trees.
Beautiful.
So we have 38 businesses from not just Sturgeon Bay, but up all over Door County who they dress up their trees around a theme. So
Okay.
like for instance, like we have a clothing store who she does this beautiful tree, but then it's also adorned with special surprises like gift certificates
Oh, how
and
fun.
clothing and other things like that. We've got who else do we have? We've got Kitty O'Reilly's. She's down the street. She's one of the early ones who decorated her tree.
Okay.
You'll see different gift certificates for appetizers and other goodies on her tree. And
Do they
then-
come here to decorate it, or do they decorate it there and then like gingerly bring it?
No, they actually. So next week, if you were to look at my calendar,
Oh,
it's full of
every
tree
day.
drop-offs. Yeah. So I mean, starting on Monday, 9 to 5, we've got people coming in and setting up their trees. So
How fun.
yeah.
So it's
yeah.
more than a maritime museum. I mean, it really takes in a lot of things for the public in the holidays.
In the community.
Yeah,
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 that's
and
really
so
cool.
essentially, guests come in and they pay the admission, and that gets them into the museum, so they get to see the museum as it stands. But then they also get to see these 38 trees, and they get to put a raffle ticket in and possibly.
So I was
win
going to
the
ask
tree.
about that. So they get to do that all along that from November 14th, I think, is until December 8th. You can put in a silent bid then for those trees? Is
It's
that
a
how it goes?
$5 raffle ticket.
Okay.
So with your
Okay.
admission, you get one to sort of get you started, to give you
Right.
kind of a taste for the raffle, and then you can purchase
And
additional
then as you get
raffle tickets.
greedier, then you can go and buy more raffle tickets. Got it. Okay.
And then it all sort of culminates on the 8th when we pull the names
Okay.
for the tree winners. But we've got a ton of other activities coming up. I mean, next Saturday we kick it off with a cooking demo.
Okay.
So we're working with Morrig from Serves You Right Catering. She's going to do a demo on how to make your pantry and your freezer your friend. So if you have unexpected guests show up, then you're prepared and ready.
I didn't know we were enemies.
The food? Your
Freezer in my
food?
pantry.
Yes. Well, yeah, so you make them your friend this holiday season. It's $20, and that includes the cooking demo, admission into the museum,
Nice.
obviously, and then you get some samples, and that's just the start of it, actually.
And then you've got Mix and Mingle on the 8th, and that's kind of culminates the tree festival
What's
then.
Mix and Mingle?
It's an event.
Is
Yeah.
it like speed dating
Jess
at the
helped me out here.
museum,
All I
or,
knew was the
Jingle,
name.
jingle, mix and mingle.
There we go.
Jingle, jingle, mix and mingle. Well,
Mm-hmm.
that's an easy one for a talk show host to mess up.
Yeah.
Jon Gast, I have a little question background, like the shipbuilding history of Door County. We talked a little bit about it with Rick. Currently, we just lost a big shipbuilder. Tell us about Palmer Johnson and a little bit of their history in Door County.
Well, I mean, Palmer Johnson is a long one. I mean, we're going back almost 100 years.
Like from the beginning.
From the beginning,
Yeah.
yeah. And
Which they weren't named Palmer Johnson.
no, it was Sturgeon Bay Boat Works at the very beginning, and then went through a whole series of different ownership situations through the years, and then eventually it got to the point where some local business people in the 40s, 50s got involved in it. One of those being Palmer Johnson himself. He was one of those involved with the operation. But the real change with what we see and what we think of Palmer Johnson as this super yacht builder really began in the early 60s by a guy by the name of Pat Haggerty. Pat Haggerty is probably better known. Those people that have ever gone to like Marquette University and gone on campus at Marquette have probably seen the Haggerty name kind of sprinkled around on campus. They're a very prominent family down there. Pat was the founder of Texas Instruments Company in
Wow.
Dallas, Texas.
Okay.
And he, in essence, it's like the old commercial where you see the guy, he liked the product so much he bought the company. Well, that's what he did with Palmer Johnson. He got himself a classic. By this time, PJ had developed a reputation for building really classic sailing boats, racing boats.
Yeah.
And Pat got himself one of those. And so he decided.
So he was hooked.
He was hooked. He was
Yeah.
hooked, and he also was very much into the engineering and just playing around with stuff. So he, in essence, was really took Palmer Johnson to the next step. One, he had the money to take him to the next step, and two, he was able to bring Palmer Johnson into the fold of aluminum construction, and that's what Palmer
That
Johnson really.
changed.
Aluminum hull construction changed the whole world of yacht construction, and so they started off mostly building sailboats, luxury sailboats, and eventually morphed into motor yachts, and of course the kind that we've seen around Sturgeon Bay over the last 30, 40 years.
A friend of mine, one of my customers and friends in Chicago is the Columbia Yacht Club, and their club ship is a 300-foot icebreaker, the Albrecht from Nova Scotia. So that's their club ship. And Mark Rempa has the Sleeping Bear, which was built at Palmer Johnson, I think, in the 70s or 80s. I think Amy remembers the name.
Yeah, I remember seeing it on the plaque.
Yeah. And, they're like vintage Ferraris, that they just keep, like wine, they get better. I mean, these guys in their boats, I mean, they're really cherished items. There was a really exciting moment here about 2 weeks ago when Palmer Johnson just rolled out their last yacht. And it was a 170-foot
70-foot.
pleasure craft. Somebody said this thing could have gone for $40 million.
That's probably pretty accurate.
I mean, just the craftsmanship, the local talent that could shape and bend and mold things on a radius like that. Is this going to be lost now with Palmer Johnson leaving?
Well, it will be, and unfortunately, one of the circumstances we've got here is that we're kind of getting bit a little bit because we saw with one of the vessels that was here over the last couple of years, which was this unbelievably different golden yacht.
The Russian
Yes.
catamaran that split all.
Yeah,
the
that
whole-
split
yeah.
all. And that
Yeah.
one, if you remember, that was a carbon fiber vessel.
Sure.
Carbon fiber is the new. It's the new thing, and they actually had the craft that went over in Norway. That's where Palmer Johnson also has a facility over there. But I think that's, I might be speaking out of turn, but what the heck, I'm speaking to the world, so I will. I think that's probably part of the thing was the fact that that was, rather than have those done over here, they had a facility over in Norway,
Right.
and that all kind of led to the gradual removal
Shifting
of-
over,
shifting of the production aspect.
But
of
then in the
yachts.
meantime, our Italian friends from Genoa, Italy, Fincantieri,
Fincantieri.
Yeah.
threw an extra syllable in there, thank you, and I'm
Yep.
Sicilian,
Yeah,
so.
shame on you.
Had to show up the talk show host. And
That's why we brought Amy.
owners of Bay Shipyard, I think they have contracts for the next 2 or 3 years building iron ore ships and tugs.
Yeah, they're in the midst of kind of finishing up a tug contract right now. It's a tug and barge contract.
Yeah.
If you think back, what's been really good for Bay Ship, even prior to Fincantieri, was I say that too when I give group tours. I always throw Fincantieri because it's great to throw the
It is.
Italian in every presentation you do.
Benny,
Yeah.
Benny.
Ciao, ciao.
Yeah, the women just kind of swoon, so it works really good.
Now you've got them.
Yeah. So what were we talking about?
Bay
We're
Ship.
talking about the tug in the
Oh, yeah,
iron ore
there we go.
business.
I was still thinking back to Palmer Johnson for a second. No, that's right. These petroleum barges they're building, they built almost 40 of them now over the last 30 or 40 years, all dating back to the Exxon Valdez disaster.
Wow.
And when that went down, then of course federal guidelines changed and we had to have double
Right.
hulled
Yep.
construction.
Yep.
And
Captain Joseph Hazelwood for you Exxon Valdez trivia fans.
There you go, thank you.
Yes.
And so that was big for Bay Ship over
Yeah.
all the years, even when Manitowoc Company Corporation owned them. But now they're still doing, they've built 3 petroleum barges they're just finishing up on, and they've got 2 of the tugs that go with them, that go in these notch barges. So they got those, and they've got some additional work that's coming up in it also that are under contract. So they're really doing very, very well.
It's such a romantic business, isn't it? I mean, just, first of all, we always refer to ships as women.
Right.
Why is that,
Because they're
Amy?
beautiful.
Why are ships women?
Because they're majestic,
Okay,
Powerful.
I guess I'm asking the right people here.
gorgeous.
Beautiful.
Jess, you want to chime in there?
But remember, we're on the Great Lakes right now, so there are no ships on the Great Lakes. There's only boats on the Great Lakes.
And what's the difference between a
Oh,
ship and
sure,
a boat?
I did not know that.
Huh? There really isn't any difference. It's just that it's just been tradition.
Oh, really?
Oh, I see.
Well, that's a little piece of trivia I did not know.
That's right. So if you get a 1,000-footer, they'll still.
call it a boat.
They call it a boat. Yeah.
Really?
Interesting.
So that little canoe I own is really not a ship.
No,
I want my money back. He said it was a ship.
He promised you.
It's a shipwreck now. Well, we're also coming up to an incredible anniversary in 5 days.
In 5 days.
Is that right?
November 10th.
November 10th.
It
Yep.
was a Monday night in November. I'm sorry, I jumped back into character again. This is Talk Like a Pirate Night at the Maritime Museum. The Edmund Fitzgerald.
Yep.
I mean, that was really. And you just came to Door County at the same time, John?
yeah. I
Wait,
did.
so you brought the good luck with you, or
I did.
you were here like 2 weeks before the sinking?
Yeah, I think if another boat would have sunk right after it, I'd been in trouble. but we've
Back
had-
to Cleveland.
Yes, but I've been very fortunate since then. So yeah, no, it was fine. Apparently they didn't tie the 2 of us together, so that was good. That was just about the same time I got hired at the newspaper in 1975.
So you've been
November 20th, if I remember right.
an old
so
sea dog here for a long time.
I have been, yeah.
Yeah, 40
And I think
years.
Amy can tell us about the Edmund Fitzgerald exhibit.
Yeah, we have a
that we've got
little
going on here.
lecture tonight. What's going
And
on
a
there,
lecture.
Amy?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first of all, it's the 40th anniversary of the sinking, which we've already said, but it pertains directly to Sturgeon Bay in many different ways, and that's the great part of having the exhibit here. The first part is that 2 of the 29 who sunk with the ship were actually from Sturgeon Bay.
Ah,
And we talked previously to Bob Purvis, who also grew up with these 2 guys, and kind of talked to him about how that felt.
Right.
But that once again, it's one of those that's 40 years ago. He doesn't really remember them as well. He hasn't seen them in 40 years.
Sure.
But that was kind of neat tie history-wise. Also, because of all the winter layup here in Sturgeon Bay at Bay Shipbuilding, both the Anderson and the Fitzgerald have been here several times.
Right.
So, and the Anderson is still here.
right?
Yeah.
Which is really a very similarly built ship.
Yeah.
To the Fitzgerald?
Right.
Yeah,
And it was the ship that was following the Fitzgerald the night it went down.
right. I was listening to the tapes in the other room, and there was the radio traffic when they were trying to encourage the Anderson to go back out. And the
And the
captain-
Anderson goes, really? Do you
What?
know what it's like out there?
Now, he didn't speak like a pirate, so there I would have felt, vindicated, that's how guys in the sea speak. But he said that all he could do was make 2 or 3 miles an hour,
Yeah.
and it was just, could have been throwing another disaster after the first.
Well, they had
And-
90-mile-an-hour winds and 30-foot waves.
You can't fight that.
No.
And what is it, John, about the lake that's so different than the ocean?
Well, I think in the ocean you have swells, so you have a little bit more of a situation where there's bigger troughs in between these swells. We don't have that on the lakes. The lakes, if you get high seas, and you get a vessel that's anywhere from 700 to 1,000 feet long, it can literally span the width, the length between those waves, which provides a lot of structural problems for vessels. So they have to be able to withstand the amount of force that these waves are hitting at them from different.
So
waves
take
that
us
are-
through that night. What's the popular belief of why she went down?
I don't know if there is a popular belief. I think, obviously we always say, well, part of the reason the Edmund Fitzgerald is as popular as it is, the wreck of it is because of the song. The song just made it famous.
Right.
But
Because there have been a lot of ships that have gone down, and we don't know that much about them, but this one became popular thanks
Right.
to Gordon Lightfoot.
Right, exactly. But the other factor is that this one was never really determined. There was never really a finding as to why the ship went down. I'm sorry, why the boat went down.
Yeah.
The freighter.
Why
I
the
wish
boat,
I had
I wish
busted
I
you
would have
on
thought of
that.
that too.
Oh, man.
By the way, I don't want to, float your boat here, but go ahead.
Yeah, but there really isn't a determined. There was some speculation that they had gone a little bit. I don't know what the reef was called up in Lake Superior, but they deemed that it might have gone a little bit too close to it. And one of the problems you have when you have those big seas is that it not only does it take you up high, but it takes you down low, and consequently the bottom may have caught the bottom of that and caused structural damage that eventually caused it. The other thing was that it just, as if you listen to the tape, they talk about the fact that a couple of their hatch covers have basically come loose, and they figured that they may have been started taking on water that way. But that was dispelled by a lot of authorities because they said, pumps should have been able to handle that problem. So they think that with it going down as quickly as it did, I mean, you see that and you hear that in the conversation with the Anderson. The Anderson, it's just like bingo, it's gone. I mean, it's just there's no survivors. There's no communication from the pilot house indicating that there's a problem at all. So you know that whatever it was, whether it was a structural breakup immediately or if it got hit by a rogue wave that just rolled it, you don't know. But if you look when you see it at the bottom, you see that it was split in half. So
Right.
And the bow actually flipped over, and it's laying upside down
Sure.
at the
Right.
bottom of the lake.
Right.
One of the other things I read, too, was that the taconite, as the water, the
material
boat
they were
was
storing.
filling up, the taconite that they were carrying, when a rogue wave could have hit them, and with these seals already leaking, that the taconite and the water all shifted to the bow, and made
Make them
lose
lose their balance.
boat
Right. Yes, right.
dive 530 feet as well.
Right.
So that was another thing I read that could have been a possibility.
And in the song, they talk about if they would have had 13 miles behind them and gone to, what was the bay?
Whitefish.
Whitefish Bay.
Point. Yeah.
I mean, were they really that close to getting into safe harbor?
They really were.
Oh, wow. It's
Makes it even
and
more
we
of a
just
tragedy,
lost
huh?
a container ship in the Atlantic going down to the Caribbean.
And that is a ship.
And that is a ship. Well, we think it is. We hope it is. And that was in a hurricane. And so, with all the modern technology that we have today, there's still something so, 18-something or other hundred about sailing and shipbuilding. There was a ship that Claudia and I, you ever go on vacation and they say, hey, we got a free free day for you at this spa, so you sign up for it and you realize you lost a day of your vacation because they were trying to sell you a timeshare. Well, this was a ship, or boat. It was called the Magellan, and it was a condominium pleasure craft that's where you live. You live on the ship, and there was maybe 20 or 30 condominiums, and you sail the world. So I thought, wow, that really is an interesting concept. I don't know, it would be like joining the Merchant Marines or getting the world's largest T-shirt collection, but to spend that much time on the water. Well, anyhow, this is the Going Home with Tony show. It's November 5th. We're 5 days before the 40th anniversary. Would have the Edmund Fitzgerald been at sea already 5 days before, or she would have still been in port loading up?
She would have still been in Superior.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
Oh, that's
So-
an interesting question.
So 40 years
Good
ago tonight, the conveyor was still filling it. How did they fill them in those days? Was it just like a bucket crane, or did they have the conveyor system?
In fact, I think there's still some of them up there, if I'm not mistaken, but they have these chutes that they basically have, and they fill these chutes, and they just go right down into the holes.
I see. And how long would it have taken to
So I'm
fill
not-
a ship?
I'm not sure if did the Anderson at that point, I mean, not the Anderson, the Fitzgerald, I don't think it had, did it have self-unloading on it or not? I can't remember.
I don't know.
I would have to look at a picture of it to see if it had self-unloading on it or not.
Mhm.
If it has, the self-unloading device really doesn't assist, that only assists with the emptying of the
Unloading
vessel,
of it,
the
right,
unloading,
yeah.
right. But normally, they have these chutes that just go right into the holes, and you can see those in the bigger ports up in Superior, Duluth.
Is it a pretty quick process?
It takes a few hours. One of our tour guides, Jim Patterson, actually used to work up in Ashland when they used to do that, and he said, yeah, that was close to one of the most dangerous jobs you could get. He said it was pretty dangerous to be up on those large platforms with these chutes with all this stuff. If you didn't watch your step, you could end up in a
In the chute.
in a ship.
Yeah.
And then you'll say, "Oh shoot!"
Yeah, exactly. Ba-dum-bum.
But a bump. So Claudia, do you have some notes? And I
Well,
think
first
we
we
have
have
some
a-
other stuff coming
We
up.
have a message from our sponsor, then some notes, and we will be talking to Carol and Nicander Moore when we come back.
Oh, I like Carolyn and Kander more. It certainly is.
And just a reminder, you can find out pretty much everything you want to know about Going Home with Tony on our website, www.goinghomewithtony.com. This includes how to connect with us on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram, where we post all of our updates and podcasts. And as usual, we have a fabulous show coming up next Thursday, November 12th at 5 o'clock Central Time. Going Home with Tony is proud to welcome a new member to the team. The second Thursday of each month, Tony and I will be chatting with Melody Fletcher of Deliberate Receiving. You probably remember Melody as a guest on our show a couple of months ago. We had such a great time learning about the law of attraction, deliberate receiving, and manifesting our destiny that we knew we had to have Melody join us on a regular basis. So starting next Thursday, November 12th, you'll want to tune in at 5 p.m. Central Daylight Time to hear what rabbit holes Melody Fletcher, Tony, and I will travel down. You can find out more about Melody Fletcher by going to her website, www.deliberatereceiving.com, or follow her on Facebook at Deliberate Receiving.
And where's our favorite attorney / tech geek of the year?
Carolyn, are you there? We
We
can.
can, Carolyn. How are you this evening?
Have you been liking this talk about ships? That is cool. So Carolyn, for our listeners, Carolyn, you probably listen and you know on the first of the month, first Thursday of the month, we have Carolyn Nicander Moore.
The first of the month we pay the rent,
Yeah, that's right.
and then the first Thursday of the
Rent
month,
for the radio show.
yeah, we get
So Carolyn Nicander Moore is the owner of the Wonder of Tech.
and a retired or still working attorney.
Okay.
So you were cleared of those previous charges? Oh, okay.
So what do you have for us? What tech innovation and latest and greatest do you have for us today, Carolyn?
My favorite
That's
subject.
Tony's favorite subject.
Bring it on.
Did you feel out of control, or were you okay with it? Yeah.
Really?
I'd have a hard time too. Yeah.
Oh, I can't
He's
wait.
controlling people. I know. It takes a lot longer to develop a trust relationship than one day,
No,
Carolyn.
just close your eyes and go to sleep. Google has had one for, I think, about 8 or 9 years out in California, and they've had they've had a half a dozen accidents, but every time Google's response is, well, you know, those human-operated vehicles, they just keep slamming into us.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So what would that mean to the trucking industry when semis will be going, tandem semis will be going down the highway with no driver? Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
I never thought of that.
Right. I saw. I think it was on 60 Minutes or some show like that, some news show. They had the reporter join somebody, and it might have been in a Tesla,
Scott Pelley.
Carolyn. Yeah, and they were actually sitting backwards in the car. So not only were they required to trust the technology of the auto-driven car, but they were actually facing backwards. So it was a moot point whether or not you could take control. You were just, you could drink, I don't know, have a cup of coffee while you're
No, I think they would be drinking more than
Yeah,
coffee.
really.
I think with the aging population, not that I'm a member of it yet, but motorhomes.
Yeah.
I mean, check that out. You buy that big obnoxious bus that goes down the road. At 10 o'clock at night, you set your destination, you go to bed, and you wake up in the parking lot 500 miles away of your next campsite.
Mm-hmm. No. Nope, me too, Carolyn.
I love cruise control.
And I never use it.
See, we're very similar. Edith!
Yeah, he would be. He
Oh,
would be.
totally.
He already knows it. He'd
Oh, yeah.
get it. Mm-hmm.
Well, think about it. With all the accidents that happen, people drinking, people falling asleep, bad road
Texting.
conditions, texting, all these other distractions and weather conditions. One day, we're going to look back at, the operated vehicle as the Conestoga wagon. That, how did they make it across the west in a covered wagon? I mean, that's where we're at right now. Our grandson, who is now 3 months old,
2.5 months old.
will never take driver's education.
And that's probably what Tesla told you too, Carolyn. Is that true? So are they predicting that by this generation, the 16-year-olds will not be having to learn how to drive a car? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. We had a whip, and we whipped the steering wheel.
Well, you can do a lot of making out, in the car.
Oh, yeah.
If you don't have to drive. I mean, wait a minute, that could be a problem. From what I understand, the price is $5,000 is an ad if it were done right now. Is that a real number, or is it going to be higher?
An add-on?
Add-on, yeah, the option.
Wow. Mm-hmm.
For you, that's pocket change.
Yeah. Yeah, it'll take some time for me too. Yeah.
Well, I'll be the test case guinea pig
Gladly.
test pilot who falls asleep and makes it to their my destination.
Without any drive.
Well, yeah, I'll be fine. Well, it's a riot that you and Claudia are both leery of it, and you are the two tech girls, and I'm the anti-tech guy.
Maybe you should listen to us, and maybe we know
Yeah,
something.
well, anyhow, well, thank you very much,
Thanks,
Carolyn.
Carolyn.
We're going to let our car drive us out to see you real soon. Take
And
care.
we look forward to you on the first Thursday in December.
Great, thank you.
you.
Bye-bye.
And just as a reminder to our listeners, you can follow Carolyn at www.wonderoftech.com.
Very good. So, how about on ships, John? I mean, we know on planes, a lot of the flight, is really, the takeoff and the landing are the two primary functions of the pilot and the co-pilot. How much of ships are also in that same world of automation today?
Well, my guess is they're probably pretty automated. I haven't really been out on a pilot, and it probably varies by the vessel and how new they are. But my guess is they're probably pretty automated. I mean, when you get out in the open lake, there's really, as long as you stay on course, and certainly that can be handled, with GPS
Sure.
nowadays, no problem. I mean, they just have to have somebody out there to make sure that the equipment isn't breaking.
I would stay away from Italian cruise ships on the Mediterranean coast of Italy, wanting to wave to your friends.
To the people on shore.
See, that's where they
that
could
got
have
too
used.
close.
They could have used some automation there. It was amazing that they were able to do it. Rick, we have a big project coming up here, the Maritime Tower. What is that about?
Well, it's something we've wanted to do for 10 years. And what the tower is going to do is it's going to be 11 stories with 2 stories of observation decks, an indoor and an outdoor,
So 11 stories is 110 feet?
approximately.
Okay, all right, so that's, how tall is does anybody know how tall
The gantry?
no, the thing in St. Louis, the arch?
I
no
don't
idea.
know.
We'll have to Google that question. Carolyn, no. So it's it's as tall as the gantry in Bay
It's
Shipyard?
actually shorter. The gantry crane at Bay Ship is 170 feet.
Okay,
Okay.
so 2/3 of that.
Yeah.
Okay.
But more importantly, we're going to have 9 floors of exhibition space. We currently have 22,000 square feet here in the museum, and we're full.
Mhm.
This will allow us to expand it. It'll be mostly digital displays. And
Interactive.
Yes, interactive with some artifacts in it. But it'll allow us to dedicate floors to the maritime, industry, like the shipbuilding or recreational boating. We will also have a floor on the children's interactives here. We'll have a simulator where you can drive that 1,000-foot
That'd be very cool.
ship
Yeah. Or boat.
or a tug
Depending.
or a Navy vessel.
Wow. So it's going to be like a simulator, like a pilot would fly a jet.
Yep, and
Wow.
it'll be different, and you'll be able to bring it in between the bridges here and
No kidding.
yes, and we'll have 1 floor on shipwrecks of the Great Lakes, and it'll be able to be interactive and allow us to reach out to a new audience, change our exhibits much quicker, and provide the educational opportunities that we can use with the children. So, you'll see things like we'll be up on the 10th floor and we'll have a video monitor up at the window, and you're looking at the east side of Sturgeon Bay. Well, there'll be lines and like a line going through the town, and if you touch it, that'll show you where Petersen Shipbuilding was. And if
Oh.
you touch it again, it'll bring up the buildings of what it was looking like back in the 70s.
Fabulous.
clever.
Fabulous tool.
Because we get that all the time. People want to know, well, those condos were Petersen Shipbuilding.
Right.
They want to know what it was like.
Yeah. And I think I saw the model, there's a rooftop deck walking promenade that you can walk around the whole
Yes.
building?
That'll be the 11th story, and it's weather permitting. We can't do it in the winter.
Mhm.
But you'll be able to go out and you'll have a 360-degree tour. You'll be able to see, the bay to your left and almost to the Lake Michigan on the right.
Oh, fabulous.
And it'll have a Fresnel lens like the old lighthouses did. And it's in the shape of a lighthouse because, we're a maritime museum and we want to honor the history of, Door County Lighthouse.
Will that be seen in Marinette, Menominee?
No.
Won't be
it's-
that bright?
No, we're not going
It's
to
tall
make it
enough.
a working one. And it won't shine in your windows.
For people that were
Yeah,
worried.
for all you Marinette, Menominee people are worried about
So now,
that.
if people want, so you're doing fundraising and trying to get the funds for this, and if people want to find out more about it or donate, they can go to your website.
We're only $4 million shy?
Well, no, we've received a couple grants today, or this week we received a $300,000
Nice,
grant,
nice.
and another $150,000 grant,
Nice.
and we received a $10 donation. And,
That's good.
Oh, my
Every-
money came in?
Yes.
Oh, good, I'm glad.
and another $5,000. So we're
Yeah.
approaching about $800,000 of funds already just
Great.
quickly.
Great. So they
Okay.
can go, and we didn't mention this at the beginning, the website for the Door County Maritime Museum is www.dcmm.org. And you can go there and find out all about the things that we're talking about today, as well as find out about the Tower Initiative and, hours and things like that.
And the museum's open year-round,
Yes,
closed on Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's,
Thanksgiving and Christmas.
Armistice Day, and
And your birthday.
and my birthday,
Yeah.
4th of July.
4th of
And the
July.
4th of July.
And tell us a little bit about the tugs, John. We have some great tugs out here, and they're a working crew.
Yeah, they are. They're working. We don't see quite as much activity from them in the summertime, but as we get the big vessels coming back in the winter, then you're going to see those tugs out moving around, breaking ice out here in the.
Oh, the
in
tugs can break ice.
Yeah, yeah. That's what they do a lot of escort work for bringing in the big boats from Lake Michigan down to the yard, and so that's kind of their job is to help break that path. And then of course once they get to the shipyard, the whole winter with all those vessels there is kind of a choreographed dance.
Oh.
you know, if they move in and out of the
Yeah,
graving dock.
it is,
and out
because
of
they have
floating
such a
dry dock.
narrow passage and all that, yeah.
Yeah.
It is like a dance.
So, you know, they have a very strict schedule they have to
Yeah.
follow to for how long they're in the graving dock. So if they're in the graving dock and they have hull work or inspection work done, they got to get them out of there, and the Tugs all assist with all that work. So in terms of moving these vessels around.
Yeah,
There's
I've lovingly nicknamed it the shipyard shuffle.
Yes.
So when
Right.
you see the tugs going out, you know there's shuffling going on.
Yes, you know that's what's following.
There's a great tour of the Bay Shipyard. Is
Oh,
it the first?
The first Saturday of
May?
May?
Yes,
Highly recommend it.
yes,
It
a great.
we took it this year,
Yeah.
and one of their things that they're so proud of are their large crawler cranes that can reach over 3 ships.
Mm-hmm.
So just the craftsmanship
Industriousness of
and
it, yes.
welding and all the things that go into, you know, that car that we just bought, that we have no idea
How much
how'd that metal
goes
get
into it,
here.
right.
I mean, all the thousands of lives.
One of, so yesterday, Tony and I were fortunate enough to do a tour of the museum, and we're really glad we did. But one of my favorite exhibits, actually, kind of weirdly, I guess, is the Lighthouse exhibit, where you have the lights. You can press on the lighthouse, and
Oh,
it
yeah.
shows you the scope of the beams. And if somebody can talk to us about the different lighthouses, because Door County is known for, well, how many we have? 7?
11.
11.
Other
Okay.
lighthouses.
Can somebody
So-
tell us about what the
That's
names of and where they are?
Well, yeah, we've got 11 of them, and for the longest time, the Visitor Bureau claimed that Door County had more lighthouses than any other county in the United States. Until when I was director of the museum, I got a call from Suffolk County, New York,
Oh.
which is on Long Island.
Challenged you, huh?
Yeah, well, yeah, and they said they had 18. Well, I basically, you know, being the journalist I am, I had to do a little background check and found that about 3 of them were nothing more than a few little rocks, a few bricks still on top
With
of
a
each
flashlight
end.
in it.
Yeah, with a flashlight. in it. Yeah, so it ended up determining that they had about 15, so they won.
Okay.
So we've got, you know.
Fine.
Yeah, so that's okay. So we let it have. Really, I think we probably with the 11, unlike Suffolk County, New York, which is a large county, ours is far more concentrated. I'd say we probably have the largest concentration of lighthouses of any place in the
I would
country.
agree.
And I think the most amount of shoreline for any county in the country.
Not really. That's a popular misconception. We're actually down the list quite a ways.
Oh,
but,
okay.
But
I've been lying to people.
All that money I won on that bet, I have
Yeah.
to return now.
like Suffolk County has much more than we do.
Oh, okay.
But they got a lot of islands too, and I mean, it's just a lot of stuff factored.
They don't have the
into it.
Packers.
Right, they don't.
Yeah.
They don't.
Yeah.
That's
You
true.
have the Giants,
Yeah.
big deal.
So list the lighthouses. This will be testing.
Okay,
Oh.
well, we'll start down here in Sturgeon Bay.
Okay.
We've got out at the mouth of Sturgeon Bay at Green Bay is Sherwood Point, the last manned lighthouse on the Great Lakes.
Whale oil?
Huh?
Was it ever whale oil?
That one, probably not. That's a relatively new lighthouse in terms of lighthouses around here. But,
Dana Island did have whale oil.
Yes, yeah, they went through a phase of whale oil and
I don't know we
kerosene.
had whales on the Great Lakes. That's so cool.
Yeah, that's right, yeah. Every once in a
Artificial.
while, one would wash up on shore.
Yeah.
You kind of do it that way. So down here, we got Sherwood Point, and then, of course, we've got actually 2 lighthouses out at the Canal Station, where the Coast Guard station is. So we've got the headlight, which marks the entrance to the canal, and then we also have the tower light, which marks the lighthouse, marks the station. And then, of course, as you go further north, you get probably the worst designed lighthouse in the history of the Great Lakes in Bailey's Harbor, which is the old birdcage lighthouse.
Why is it?
Because they basically put it at the entry point to the harbor. But as we all know in Door County, we have a lot of shale and very lightly covered shale,
right.
and because of our limestone. And so unfortunately, a lot of old schooners just decided that lighthouse was really, really cool, and we'll head towards it. But in the process, they were intercepted by rock. So
It didn't do what it was supposed to do.
It didn't do what it did. It just basically caused more problems than it was
Right.
worth. So it didn't take long for them to determine that rather than a lighthouse, they needed range lights. So that's how the range lights got into Bailey's
Okay.
Harbor.
Well, what's a
And
range light?
A range light is actually 2 lights.
Red and a green?
Yeah, no. Basically, just 2 regularly plain lights. And one's going to be a lower light and one's going to be an upper light. And if you go to Bailey's Harbor and you go along Ridges Road, you'll notice there's a little kind of a six-sided little lower light down there, and if you look up, there's a walkway that leads you right up to what I always call, it looks like an old schoolhouse, which is the upper light.
Right.
And so if you're
Oh,
out in the...
right, we've seen that.
Yeah,
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, so if you're out in the
Yep.
harbor and you come in with your schooner and you're looking down and you see this light in the lower light, what you're doing is you're shifting your boat around until you get that lower light to line up with the upper
Oh,
light.
okay.
And that's why they call it a range light.
Got
So
it.
once those two lights
It gives you a
line up,
range.
right,
Mhm.
you can basically follow it in and avoid all that limestone. So those are Bailey's Harbor, and then of course just north of it is Cane Island, which is the lighthouse that we oversee as the Maritime Museum. So that's, that one has been kind of interesting this year, and Rick could probably allude on that a little bit because of the higher waters, and it's actually becoming an island again, which is kind of exciting out there. So we've got Cane Island out there. Of course, we skip back across over to the other side. We've got Eagle Bluff Lighthouse, which is in Peninsula State Park, which is probably along with Cane are the two of the most visited
popular.
ones to visit. And then out beyond that, out in the lake, on the bay, is Chambers Island Light. So then if we want to go a little further north, we're going to probably go up into, mostly the rest of them are all island lights. We've got Plum Island Light, which is actually technically another range light, which helps navigate Death's Door. And then you got Pilot Island, which is out just a little bit. Amy was talking about her relatives being out in that area,
Right.
in Death's Door area. And then we've got Potawatomi
Potawatomi
Light,
on
which is
Rock
out
Island.
on Rock Island, which is the oldest of the lighthouses in Wisconsin. So that's our lighthouses.
That's so cool.
And we have a
That'd be great.
working ferry up at North Point or
North
Gills
Point.
Rock, is it?
North Point.
Northport.
North Port,
yeah.
which goes up to Washington Island. That goes year-round.
Yep, Washington Island Ferry is year-round. In the winter, when the ice is in, they do have an icebreaker,
Icebreaker.
so you just need to make reservations.
Wow. I mean, I think it was National Geographic that once dubbed Door County the Cape Cod of the Midwest. And we've been to Cape Cod, so we can say that,
I like it here better.
yes, we have.
Well, I got it from a very interesting source. I was doing a story, at the time I was doing it for Door County Magazine, but when Mike Sherman was coach of the Packers, I went out and did a story on Mike Sherman, and Mike Sherman is from Boston, originally from that area, and he said he had heard that same thing, and he was not familiar when he took the job with the Packers at all about Door County or whatever, but his family had a place to stay out on the Cape, but he said, to be honest with you, he said, I'm Massachusetts born and
bred,
raised, yeah, and he said this is much prettier, he said, than it is out.
Yeah, there's something about Door County. It's just, it's the people, it's the place, it's the scenery, everything about it. It's almost as if time stopped. It's the way time used to be when people would reminisce and
Things were simpler.
yeah, they would, it was apple pie and ice cream and
cherry
corny
pie.
parades. And we have our share of them. Well, thank you very much, everybody.
Yes.
Jon Gast, the tour guide, and Jess Reinke, events coordinator. We got a lot of stuff coming up at the Maritime Festival. Amy Paul, marketing and director of communications. And our grand exalted executive director, Rick O'Farrell, that is going to take all your money. We only need another $4 million?
About 3 million.
$3 million.
But I'm sure he'd take more.
I mean, we could do that. It's only 7 o'clock. We could get that by 10. So we welcome, I'm sorry?
Call in.
Call in, yes.
Really.
Let's have a telethon, that's a good idea.
Yeah, really.
This would be more of a, what is this called? Is this a webathon? Or
Yeah, we
Yeah,
could do that, a
webathon.
webathon, and have
I
everybody
mean,
pledge money. That'd be
This is the
awesome.
best $10 you'll ever spend. Is that what the admission is, $10 to the museum?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is
I
a
mean,
really
you can't even
well
get a
worth it.
double macchiato with an extra shot of espresso for that anymore.
Yeah.
So, well, thank you very much, everybody.
you
It's been a
all.
great
Thank you.
afternoon.
Thank
And looking forward to tonight's lecture.
And people can look up the Door County Maritime Museum again at www.dcmm.org, and you can find all kinds of information and great pictures and hours and all that kind of wonderful things. So
And we'll be seeing you next week, God willing.
thanks.